what is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a long Christmas break, but we are back on the grind. Today, showing you a pretty cool video, 𝐓𝐔𝐓�H𝐑𝐈𝐓𝐷𝐆 music video tutorial in Cinema 4D. I'm going to show you guys the basics. Obviously, for the full music video, it took a lot of time and preparation to pull off some of them, but I'm still going to go in here and show you guys how you can get these models, how you can apply the proper objects to create these cool bending, twisting animations, melting animations that you're seeing in the video, and then how to ultimately composite them into your footage. Like I said, pretty cool today. You guys have been asking about this one a lot. If you guys are new here, consider subscribing, joining the community, and let me know what you want to see next in the comments down below. Let's go ahead and bring up the video just so we have a little bit of a reference for what we're going to be teaching today. So like I said, we're going to be just going through some of the basics, but we're still going to be showing a lot of cool stuff. I'm going to avoid the snake just because that sort of animation is kind of separate to what I want to do and for my skill set. What we're going to be focusing on in this video is going to be all about this cool stuff going on here. So we got these crazy bendy buildings that we have in the background that you guys are about to see, just like that. I'll show you how to make that, as well as I'm going to show you how to create some other cool stuff like this 3D camera tracked Lamborghini melting in the scene. Looks super sick. I like how that one turned out. The third thing I'm going to show you is how to create some trees like this and how to create some twisting on the tree. Here's an example of that melting again. And like I said, at the end of this, I'm going to show you how to composite this bending, twisting, melting objects into your scene so that you can create some really cool photorealistic, super imaginative video just like this. Okay, so let's hop into Cinema 4D. So first off, let's start with the Lamborghini. I made a video recently talking about some of the best places to get free 3D objects and free 3D characters that you guys can get for your videos. I'm going to link that down below if you missed it. But anyways, I just Googled free 3D Lamborghini. You're going to get a little OBJ file, which you can bring into Cinema 4D. Let's go back into Cinema 4D and open that up. Okay, so here's our Lamborghini. I just clicked File, Merge Objects, and opened up the OBJ, which I just downloaded. I also put it into a null, so if you click this plus sign, this is what it looked like originally. If you just click on the first object, hold down Shift, and then just go to the end and select the last object, and then click Alt-G. It'll put that into a null, which is super simple to just group this all together. Now this is optional, but if you guys do have the Octane plugin, you guys can open up this little live viewer window just to see what this is going to look like whenever it's rendered out. So I'm just going to snap that to this window and then fire it up and see what that's looking like. And I already went ahead and textured this. If you guys want to use the same texture that I'm using, it's an Octane texture. I'm going to leave a free download for that in the description of this video where you guys can download it from my website. And the reasoning for that is just to save some time so I don't have to go through the full steps of making the texture, and we can skip right to the crazy effect driven stuff like what I'm about to show you now, and that is the melt effect. Now just one more time for reference, I'm going to quickly show you what it looked like in the video, the melting Lamborghini. So let's play that out. Looking pretty sick, as you guys can see, just kind of melts to the floor, and the tracking of that is looking really smooth. Pretty easy to do this. Let's just come up here to our toolbar, and on this little bendy joint, we're going to click and hold there, and we're going to navigate down to where it says melt, and then release your mouse button. Bam, just like that. So it's going to pop up a little melt object, and all you need to do with this is click and just drag this underneath our Lamborghini null object, and it's going to pop in there. Now our Lamborghini is just going to turn into a giant pancake, so let's click on melt, and I'm going to pop out this window just so my face cam doesn't block these attributes, and I'm going to go ahead and make the strength 0% to start. So it's going to go back to normal, and there's some cool things you can do with this. As you can see, if you bump up the strength under this object tab, it's going to start melting just like this. If you look at the unrendered version, you can see what it's looking like. And then in the rendered version, now if you want to customize what the melt is going to look like, let's go ahead and put this on, we'll keep it on 16. Let's hop over to the fall off tab, and then if you see where it says shape, we can change that to something like linear. Of course, you can mess around with all this. Let's go ahead and make it linear. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the orientation of that from +Z to +Y, so that's on our Y axis. And then what I can do is I can find this yellow box. This is the linear box, which our melt is kind of sticking within. And you can move this around so that you can customize the look of the melt itself. You're going to get a different look if you add those fall offs, kind of like that. That kind of gives a more squished look for the whole car, and I'm liking that. Of course, if you want, you can add separate fall offs to kind of squish one side of the car before the other. Like I said, we're just kind of quickly going through the basics of each of these objects and what they can do. In the actual video, it probably took hours and hours of just customization. If you guys really want to add some crazy stuff into a project, take this kind of basics of what I'm giving you and just really tweak it, mix together different things. You guys are going to be able to create some really cool stuff. Let me show you how we can animate that so that it starts from nothing and then starts to go down. So first of all, let's go ahead and just drag to the beginning of our timeline. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just make sure that the strength of this melt is at 0. So let's change the strength to 0% so that nothing is happening to our car. Then what we're going to do is we're going to drag for however long we want this animation to last. Let's say 60 frames. And just drag like that. If you guys want, you can make this longer. As you can see right here, it's only up to 90 frames. For example, we can change that up to 120 frames and then just drag that bar out, and it just gives you some more time if you do want it. But first, let's go a step back. Let's start at 0. Make sure your strength is at 0%. Then we're going to click this little red key in the middle. This is the auto keying key. That's just going to create an automatic keyframe. Then we drag to 60, our 60th frame, bring up our attributes again. And we're going to make that 100%. And that's optional, of course. If you guys want, you can make it something less. Now, what you're going to see is these little blue box popped up there. That is a keyframe. So if you start from the beginning and you play that out, you're going to see it grow from a strength of 0% with our keyframe there to a strength of 100% at our 60th keyframe. And that just about sums it up for the Lamborghini. And like I said, at the end of this, I'm going to show you how to composite what we're showing into your actual footage. So we've done the Lamborghini. Let's go next to the trees, and then I'm going to show you the buildings. So let's go ahead and hide this for now. I'm just going to double click that so it's red, so it's not showing in any of my windows. And we're going to go ahead and bring in some cool trees, which we can then twist around. So just for reference, let's bring up the video again, what that's looking like. As you can see, just crazy bending trees going on like that, going in front of the camera. And like I said, with the time they put in, they tried to really make the people in this video interact with the 3D, which is a super hard thing to do, so props to them. I also want to read out their names real quick. VFX supervisor Sam Shea, lead animator Marco Mori, and then additional VFX Sam Shea, Eric Ferguson, Alessio De Vecchi, and Martin Olsen, directed by Elliot Sellers and Sam Shea. So shout out to them, they made a really cool video. Now back into here. Now to create the trees, we're going to be using this plugin called Forester. Now there's some really cool tutorials out there on all the things you can do with Forester. I'm going to show you some of the basics. So once you click it, it's just going to pop up this normal tree. Now what we can do here is I'm going to click on my Forester and let's pop this attribute box out so you guys can see. You guys are going to see a bunch of options. We're going to start out by just clicking tree library, which is right there. A bunch of different tree options you can choose from. And this, like I said, this plugin is super cool. I recommend you check it out. I'm going to link it down below if you do want to check it out. And let's go ahead and choose what tree we'd like to use. So we're going to keep it simple, and I just selected thorn tree. And as you can see in our Octane live viewer window, that's what it's looking like rendered out. Now there's some other cool options you can do to customize this. Let's go up to tree parameters. And if you guys see here, you can just click randomize tree to kind of change it around in case you want a different look or preset. We can also go over to the leaf section and we can kind of change around if we do want leaves or if we don't. Pretty sure since this is a thorn tree, it doesn't really have a big arrangement of leaves. But say for example, you have something with a lot of leaves like this apple tree. Let's go in here and let's bump up the leaf multiplier. You guys are going to see you can have a good amount of leaves if that's what you want. But I'm going to keep it on no leaves for now. Now some other cool stuff, you guys can go over to Hyperwind and check that if you want it to kind of sway. It's not rendered, so it may be hard to see like that, but that's a cool option. We're going to change that off for now. And there's so many other options: snow, fruit, leaves. Now once you customize your tree to your liking, let me show you how we can twist around these branches. So it's pretty similar to the melt that we added in earlier. We're going to come up to that bendy joint, click and hold, and then just grab twists, and this little blue box is going to pop up. That is our twist object. Let's pick up that box by its axes and let's go ahead and rotate that to where we want it. You want these little trees, you want these little branches at the top to be twisting around and going crazy. Let's put our blue box there. Same as before, grab our twist object and just drag it onto our apple tree. And then let's click on twist, go down to our attributes. Let's pop that out so you guys can see. And if you go ahead and just grab the angle, you're going to see it's going to start to twist. Now, I wouldn't recommend going too far with this because as you see, it's just going to look a little bit too crazy. But that is the basic of how we can get that to really twist around in your face like you were seeing in that video. If you guys add a bunch of these together, you're going to be able to create some really crazy randomized looks. So keep that in mind. This is just the kind of basic of it if you just want some quick little movement going by. You can do the same thing with the fall off if you want to customize the area of where the twisting is taking place or what all is twisting or the levels of where it should stop. So that's looking pretty cool. And then same with the animation. Let's go ahead and create some little keyframes. So with my angle at 0 and my timeline at 0, I'm going to go ahead and start auto keying. I'm going to drag to 60 frames, and I'm going to go ahead and make my angle something like 70%. And let's go ahead and check that out. So easy like that. Cool little animation of just kind of twisting and turning in your face. And of course, we got some kind of stringy branches here, but if you do use that Forester plugin, you have a bunch of different options for what your tree is going to look like. So just using these simple Cinema 4D objects like twist, melt, bend, which is what I'm going to show you next, you can create some cool animations, and then we're going to composite this into our footage. So let's show you the last one, which is bending these buildings, and then we're going to go ahead and start compositing. Let's delete all of these. And for the buildings, what you guys can do is either look up a free 3D model like I did with the Lamborghini, or you can use this awesome plugin. Same with the forest. If you guys want, just look up a free 3D tree. It's going to work the same. You don't have to use the Forester plugin. Forester plugin is just a little bonus because it is such a great plugin. But if you want, just look up free 3D tree. Now for the buildings, I'm going to be using this little plugin. It's actually a library in my content browser. I'm going to link that below as well. It's just called Building Kit. That gives you a lot of preset buildings. So in my content browser, let's just go to presets, and then right here, building kit 1.3, open that up by double clicking, and then you have your panels, your building splines. I'm going to leave the full tutorial on how to use building kit if you want to look more into that. I'm just going to use pre-made buildings. So maybe this little headquarters model. Let's go ahead and load that in. Okay, so here's the headquarters model, and the texture is really going to depend on your lighting in the scene as well. So I'm just going to add in some quick little octane lights. So I'll click objects, I'll go to lights, and then just add a little octane area light. Okay, so we got our preset building. You guys can customize that however you like, either by building your own or by using any of the presets that they give you. Now let me show you how we can make this twist, bend, and turn like in the music video. So same concept, click and hold on this little joint, find the bend, and then we're going to go ahead and select that. So I'm going to click on there. I'm going to go to coordinates and make this maybe 100 for all this. See how that looks. And that's looking okay, maybe a little bit too big. Let's make it maybe 50 in all the coordinates, and then let's go ahead and move that up. Perfect, so it's encompassing our building. Now we go ahead and take our bend, drop that underneath our object, so our actual headquarters model that we have here. Then we can click on bend and go to object. Let's pop out these attributes so you guys can see. Then of course, let's go ahead and change the angle. And then to see something happen, let's bump up the strength. Some crazy bending going on. Now let's go ahead and do the same. Let's set up a little animation. So let's set everything to 0, just like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and click auto keying at my timeline position 0. I'm gonna scroll to 60, and I'm going to just mess things up. You guys will be able to see the animation as this bends. Now, one key little trick, if you guys don't want the whole building to shift around, if you want maybe only the top of it to bend so that you can really lock this thing into place, you guys can take the bend and then just raise it on its axis a little bit. And that way you guys are going to see only the top of the building is really bending. The bottom is staying the same. That is the basics of it. That's how you can create that bending, that twisting. That's where you can find these 3D models. Now let's go ahead and start compositing this into some of your guys' scenes. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to go ahead and use this shot right here and just composite in a little bendy building in the background. Now, first off, we're going to need some 3D tracking information for the shot. So let's right click on this clip in Premiere and click replace with After Effects composition to bring that into After Effects. Okay, with our footage now within After Effects, let's go ahead and right click on the footage. Let's go up to track and stabilize, and this is actually grayed out because we need to double click on here so that it's not a composition. Sometimes it'll do that. I'll click Control-Shift-D just to get rid of the parts that we don't need. Then I'll right click and I'll go to track and stabilize, and I'll click track camera. Okay, so our computer just went in and did its thing. As you can see, a really good 3D track going in there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to just click create camera, just like that. And that just created a little 3D camera which has all the tracking information. So anything that we drop in here that is a 3D object is going to be following this 3D camera. Next, what we need to do is let's go back and click on our layer, click on the 3D camera tracker to see this again. And we're going to go ahead and find a little area that we want to create a plane, and this plane is going to serve as a placeholder for where we put our building. So maybe let's try and put it here. I'll right click and I'll click create solid. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that solid. I'm going to open up its options. And I'm just going to change around the orientation of it so that it is kind of relatively in the area that we want to paste it. So let's scroll here. You guys will see the plane is pretty set in place. Okay, so now all we need to do is go up to File, Export, Maxon Cinema 4D exporter. Now it's going to say 2D layers found, blah blah blah. All you need to do is just ignore that for now. That's just telling you that this footage isn't going to export as 3D because it's a 2D layer. That's fine. Let's find a place where we can save this. I'm gonna name this as bendy building tracking info. And I'm going to save that. Now let's go into Cinema 4D so we can go ahead and save it and close this After Effects file. And let's go ahead and file save our Premiere. So back in Cinema 4D, let's go ahead and just open up that file that we just saved. So open, here's what that is going to look like. So since we have a 3D camera tracker, if I drag here, you guys are going to see that is following the exact 3D camera info that we did in After Effects, and that plane is the plane that we also created within After Effects. Looking good. Now what we need to do is go ahead and put something where this plane is and then line it up. Go ahead and click this little target button next to the 3D camera tracker. Don't want to be messing around with the 3D camera tracker at all. And let's just go scroll into where this plane is. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and create whatever we want to 3D track in, whether it's our Lamborghini, our tree, or for this example, the bendy building. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to open up my content browser and I'm going to go and do what I just showed you. So presets, open up building kit, and then pre-made buildings. I'm going to go ahead and select a cool little model that we can get in here. Maybe this one. This opens in a new project. So I just deleted the camera and the scene off there. I'm going to hold down Control C to copy that, and then I'm going to hold down V on my keyboard, go to projects, go back to here, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste my building and say yes. And that is looking huge right now. So let's click on our building for now. Let's go to coordinates, and we're going to make that something a lot smaller, maybe like 0.1 is what we're working with. Looking good. It's still a little bit big, so I'm going to maybe make it 0.05 for all these. And you guys may need to experiment a little bit with this to get the perspective right, but let's move that over to where the plane is, and you can rotate that and position it however you guys would like. Now we can click this little target for our camera to go back and look at what that's like, and this is what it's going to look like. So I think that this is a little bit too big. I think it needs to be smaller. So let's still go ahead and make this smaller. I'm going to click the scale button, and I'm just going to shrink this, and that's looking a lot better. Let's maybe take that and make it a bit bigger. Get off of our camera tracker, and then let's go ahead and add the bendiness onto here, and then we're going to go ahead and save this and bring it into After Effects and see what that looks like rendered. On our building, let's go ahead and set up the bend. I'm going to go over to this little joint, click and drop the bend. Here it is, this little blue box. Let's bring that over our building. So we're going to make sure that that is centered onto there, just like that. I'm actually going to rotate this building just because it's a little bit crooked. And then we can go ahead and animate this. So let's go ahead and click on bend and drop that onto our building. And then we're going to go ahead and set up some keyframes. So I'm going to click auto keying, and I'm going to drag a little bit, maybe to 1/6, maybe to the end of the timeline. And I'm going to go to my bend options, and we're going to make this crazy. So let's click object. Let's make strength something like 10 maybe. And then let's bump up the angle, maybe even add more, something like that. So here's what that is going to look like. Let's go back to our camera target, play, and there you go. As you see, we have this nice, crazy, bendy building. If you guys want, you guys can actually click off your camera target and add some more lighting or whatever you want to stylize this building. I think that looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and just file save this, and then let's go back into After Effects and back into our composition. And in fact, we can go back into Cinema 4D. In our object menu, let's just make sure that the track solid is actually hidden, so that we don't see that popping up. File save that again, bring in After Effects. Let's go ahead and bring back in that Cinema 4D file that we just saved. So H, here it is. Drag that just into our After Effects timeline. My mistake, make sure that your camera is actually turned on before you save that. Then click File, Save. Something as small as that can make a huge difference. You're going to see it updates, and there it is. If you ever need to make some adjustments, you can just hop back in here, move it, or whatever you'd like. The great part about having it in Cinema 4D is that you can just do this, make a little adjustment, file save, hop back into After Effects, and you guys are going to see in real time it updates, and it'll be fixed. So check it out, guys. I just tweaked around with the settings a little bit to composite this a lot better, and I think it looks pretty good. I think if I spend like an hour or two on it, this would be pretty well composited in, but just for the time being, I think that's looking pretty cool. We got the bendy building in there, and all I did was go into Cinema 4D and just kind of change around the position a little bit. Once I was done, I would make sure that my camera is clicked, that my camera target is clicked, I file saved, came back and checked on what it was looking like. Now the bottom of it, I needed to composite a little bit better. So what I did was I just went on Google Images and I just looked up fog, and the image that I ended up using with it was this fog right here. I'll link that down below if you guys want to use it. I threw the fog in there. I changed the blending mode. I'll just click toggle switches and modes to screen just to kind of get rid of the black background. I also threw a little curves effect and just dropped the blues down to make it yellow. So we get this nice yellowish fog that matches my scene. Now, obviously, depending on the scene you're using, this is always going to be different. I also just threw in a little keyframe just so it kind of follows the bottom of it, as well as I click Control D just to add another fog over top of that. Now another thing that's really going to sell this composite is throwing in a lot of blurring. Since this is far back in the scene, what I did was I'll click on my bendy building. I added two effects. I added a curves effect as well, just to kind of match the color of the scene. So I added a little bit of yellow. I dropped the blues in the curves just to kind of add a little bit more yellow to match that haziness in the distance. And I also kind of bumped up the highlights and made it a little bit less contrast. Next, I added a Gaussian blur effect, and that just kind of really cements the fact that it is in the distance. Here it is without the Gaussian blur, and here it is with the Gaussian blur. That is about it. I also added Gaussian blurs onto the fog layers just to kind of make that a little bit less obvious, and I think that actually looks pretty good. It really does look like we have this cool bendy building in the background. Obviously, compositing is going to be different every time for your scene, and it is a little bit tricky. I'm going to link some more tutorials I have talking about it, and this is why I recommend getting some sort of 3D software, whether it's Cinema 4D or anything else. Having those built-in tools like the melting, like the bending, like the twisting, and applying that to 3D objects so they're not just static things sitting there. Adding these cool little effects really can create some cool scenes and spice things up that might not have been there to begin with. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to see more Cinema 4D, if you want me to make a part 2 on specific other things that were in this video, go more in depth with it. Like I said, this is just the basics. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys later.